if it is not between major
qualifying team
/ relegation.
I see.
So.
Okay.
Since we're going into a major that has all group stage, it used to be, okay, there would be a tiebreaker because, of course, first and second means you go to playoffs or you go to group stage. But since it's all group stage now, the current rule set says that, well, there's no longer that. It's just groups. So since you're all going to groups anyway, there's no tiebreaker there. So, which means OG could net themselves an extra 160 DPC points by being able to win this match right here because they have the head-to-head against Gaming Gladiators.
Yeah, and that mattered a lot last year. So I think people have a lot of respect for the points that they can get from the leagues. Yeah, especially after like regional finals happened or there. That's our tour.
the one RTZ clan member.
Yeah. There's a lot of fake RTZ clans out there, you know?
There is, yeah. There's a South American one. There's a Russian one.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of fans. A lot of our tour fans all around the world.
So this is an interesting draft from Entity. They picked Terrorblade into Tiny. It's the #1 hero in terms of there's three people here.
There's a lot of people here, and they don't sleep. They don't Shadow Strike. They don't really want the kill.
No. They're playing for lanes, which is fair. I see players more often than not these days. Like unless you can get a first blood for your mid and it's like guaranteed, you don't want to like skill things up that you're not going to want for lane because it just ruins the lanes and it's not worth like the 200 or so gold that you get. But
right. Let's continue on the Terrorblade because you were saying during the draft you were telling me privately that it was an absolute dog shit Terrorblade game. There's no way you could possibly win.
So it's the yes. All right, those are my exact words. 100%. It's the highest winner hero versus Tiny in the game, so I understand that part. But the other day we saw this Terrorblade versus Viper matchup, and Viper absolutely dumpsters this. It's really difficult. Like, you have to really play the TB well, and I was thinking maybe they would even put Coddle in that lane just to secure the lane, even though they have the Coddle Sand King down here, which obviously is a very effective lane.
Yeah.
Get the double barrel strike and everything, double nuke. But, yeah, because Clockwork deals well with the Bane, and Viper deals very well with the Terrorblade. I expect that lane to be very difficult. And I think Terrorblade's going to have to go jungle pretty early, but we'll see.
I feel like that's not the only answer to Terrorblade here, right? It's I feel like Pugna as a support actually deals pretty well. I mean, he cleans out the illusions, right? Whenever he tries to throw him down lane, you've got a support that can insta-kill him. That's nice. Decrepify is a very useful tool defensively.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like, the thing with TB is, like, a big reason that this hero is considered very strong is the fact that you can push out lanes, but you do it with, like, single illusions, not multiple. You're not like Naga Siren. So clearing just one illusion on Pugna is actually pretty damn impactful. But so basically what Entity is doing here is they're saying that we think that this is good enough versus Tiny, which they're right about that. Like, it's literally the #1 winner hero versus Tiny because Tiny cannot burst TV and you just turn and you sunder him. It's what we saw at TI. It's you know what Team Spirit did to deal with the Tiny. So it's very strong. It's very strong. And they're saying, okay, even with these counters, we still think that it's strong enough that it's worth picking it in the game. You can already see that Viper's doing very well in lane versus Terrorblade.
So it sounds to me basically that if Entity can get out of the laning phase in, let's say, the first 20 minutes of the game and be looking pretty even on net worth, you're feeling good about this Terrorblade being able to carry.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because, you know, at that point, you don't care about the Viper. It's, you know, magic damage, you're going to have BKB, you're going to have Scotty. Same with Pugna. Exact same answers to Viper will answer the Pugna. Other than the illusion killing, which is a bit of an issue.
Boy, Misha is just being quite obnoxious here. And Yuragi even joining him and kicking Toby out of lane. The Keeper of the Light's like, all right, sorry, Toby, I'm going to have to take some CS here. And he'll try and stall up the creep wave, connect them together. Kotomi doing a good job of kind of ensuring Toby gets not totally screwed by Misha's play there.
Honestly, more often than not, this is what you see with Sand King lanes these days. Like, players have gotten really good at just understanding that he's extremely weak in the first few levels, and it's not the type of hero that you want to just, you know, let him get to level 4, let him get to level 5. Like, I know a lot of people consider Sand King to be, like, arguably the most overpowered hero of the patch. People in pubs will, like, flame you and pause on you. And so, like, high-level pubs, like, people are really grumbling about Sand King. It's like, oh, it's just such an easy hero, yada, yada. But the way that you punish it is in the lanes. I've never seen people dive behind the tier 1 like that, but I can understand why they have this mentality of pressuring, because that's kind of what everybody's thinking towards the Sand King. Like, weak early, absolutely god tier later. You have to pressure when he's actually weak.
And it goes to show how strong he is, because I feel like doing well in lanes is a very important part of the meta right now.
It is.
And to have to be actively first picking a hero
that you know will do pretty bad,
will get absolutely destroyed in lanes more often than not, says a lot about his viability.
Whether it's strange, it's weird. Like, most of the time Sand King loses lanes. Like, once he's got the levels, he's okay, but by that time, you should be losing to the degree where, like, the carry has more items than you and can deal with you. But a lot of the time, Sand King goes 0-2 in lane, gets a Blink Dagger, and laning phase is just forgotten. Like, nobody gives a shit. You just do so much damage, and you've the greatest initiation currently in the game. So it's like, it just doesn't matter. You need so little to do a lot on that hero.
And his recovery mechanism is really good, right?
Yeah.
As long as you support stacks for you. Fishman is going to die here, it looks like, as maybe he can actually brain stab and keep himself alive. No, he's just slowed too much. Even a stick being used there, but it's not enough. Amar picks up the first blood. This lane is indeed going very well for OG.
So one thing that I'm thinking about now with the Entity draft, with picking the Terrorblade into Viper and into this difficult lane, is that they do have a Sand King, who we already talked about. His laning is pretty weak, and he wants to ideally, like, take the safe lane at some point. So you have a safe lane that's basically, you know, designed to lose, and then a hero that likes to take the safe lane. That's kind of a perfect storm there. So Sand King at you know, in the next few minutes, especially when the catapults come out, I think we could see SK TPing towards top and holding that lane, and TB just goes and jungles up, and then all of these counters just don't matter.
Which would explain maybe why they wanted to keep the Coddle down there, because they need Sand King to get some good levels. That way he could take this lane away from Chrysalis, who is obviously struggling here, and he is going to die again. And Fishman, I think, just kind of joined the party to possibly die as well. I don't see any escape for him unless he can somehow block him out in trees. Taiga's actually getting a little low. Fishman wants at least that, but no. He gets pushed back into his doom. Amar, with a double kill, is now 3-0. You know, we've seen this guy shut down, and he still comes back and has a great game. I'm very scared of what it looks like when he wins his lane super hard.
Yeah, and they do this dive on at the 5-minute mark. So the catapult's just about to spawn. The catapults are hitting the side lanes, as we can see here, and they just killed 2 people. So it's going to be even harder for anybody to go up towards that top lane. And given the fact that Sand King's having a tough time down here, he's only got 2 levels in Sandstorm. So it's not exactly easy for him to hold the top lane right now, just because you don't have the permanent Sandstorm. You don't have the 100% uptime on it. It doesn't do that much damage. So
yeah,
there's not as much threat with that level 2 Sandstorm. Like, you can just walk into it and kill him, and you don't take that much damage from it. Level 5, that's when you get to the point where Sand King can actually kill you.
And Terrorblade is also not at a point that he's going to jungle super efficiently just yet, as Misha trying to juke out, goes back into the trees and TP's away. They'll TP actually back to base, so maybe there's some time here. Amar's actually going to die. Good rotation there from Stormstormer, set up by Fishman with the sleep. So they relieve a little bit of pressure there in the top lane, while the TB just focuses on jungling. No longer has a lane to work.
Yeah, they needed that. They needed, like, both the side lanes are kind of tough right now, and both the TB and the Sand King want to farm, so it 100% falls on your mid laner at that point to start rotating and, you know, use those levels that they got from the mid lane in the farm. So yeah, that was a solid rotation.
BZM has been joined by Taiga, and they're trying to pressure the mid lane while the Queen of Pain was away, so they get a little bit of chip damage there, nothing major.
Forcing the blink. That doesn't do anything more than that, though. BZM too. Arcane Rune pulls the whole creep wave to the easy camp, so, like, he's just 100% farm focused right now, which is what you see with Ember Spirits more often than not these days. Ever since the change where Sleight of Fist does 100% damage to creeps, it's so easy to just sit in a lane, and anybody that comes in, you just slowly chip away at them with Sleight of Fist and clear the whole creep wave as well at the same time. So it's like you cannot sit in lane and farm against Ember. And so a lot of Embers these days are just not really rotating, which is a little weird, because this is one of the better rotating heroes in the game, especially if you get a rune. But it just makes so much sense to sit in a lane and chip.
Oh, Fishman. Kind of lucky to be alive there. does rotate back out. Basically, Amar and Taiga, they want to make sure that nobody is actually sitting behind the trees there and soaking experience. Fishman does need some help here, and Chrysalis was in the neighborhood and will probably be enough to allow Fishman to be able to disengage. Stormstormer actually going for this. It looks like they've got an easy kill on Taiga, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's pressure. It's pressure. Like, OG, they're farming on all of their cores right now. They're so happy with this, with just a support dying for that, forcing those rotations. Like, Yuragi is untouched bottom lane. My boy has no kills or anything. He's still top net worth.
Yeah, OG just being very farm efficient after winning lanes. I feel like this has just been a bit of a formula for them is dumpstering lanes really hard, and then what they know really well how to use that lead that they're able to get from it. So we're going to see how Entity is able to respond, and it feels like they are doing a good job of keeping it like the net worth hasn't spiraled out of control or anything.
Yeah,
this top tower is still alive.
They're weathering the storm for sure. Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job. They're not losing a lot. I mean, Fishman just trying to get solo XP up here. Soaking a bit. He's going to get punished for it.
But still, I mean, even if he dies here, right? Like, in a way, he's kind of been doing his job.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. He's a 5. Who cares? Like, this doesn't matter. Ideally, like, you know, in an ideal world, he has, like, a tango and he goes through some tree there and survives, like, epically. But,
sure.
Yeah, as a 5, that's what you want to do. He's getting a 6. Once he gets a 6, he can start making rotations, and Entity can actually, you know, potentially get a lead in this game rather than just kind of passively farming. They can actually do something aggressive.
Yeah, and they kind of need that Fiend script to be able to do something about this Ember Spirit currently, which until there's like a Blink Dagger on the Sand King, it feels like BZM can kind of run around, do whatever he wants.
Yep, he's pretty free. It's entirely on Fishman. Isha, quite aggressive. Quite aggressive.
Yeah, dive past the tower, no problem.
He's got a salve, so he's just trying to, you know, efficiency.
Oh, Taiga! He is going to blink to the other side, but this also means that Stormstormer is a little bit exposed here, as he doesn't have his blink back up, and BCM really wants to go for the punish here, but the blink is coming up in a second. Will be able to go some distance, and TP out stays alive. Just barely. That DD was almost the death of him.
That was a nice little play from BZM. I mean, it doesn't end up netting anything, but they kind of baited that there. I think if he doesn't have the DD, that looks a lot worse. This nets them the tower, so they don't get the kill, but because of Stormstormer having to TP back, it's just a free tower with the catapult. And you see this a lot these days. The tiny carry rotating towards mid at like the 10-minute mark. It's not just like a passive farming hero. He's got so much HP that like good luck killing him at this point. 1800 HP hero that does a bunch of damage to towers. It's just a perfect hero to rotate mid.
Yeah, I think there's actually kind of a tie between Terrorblade and Tiny in that regard, is that they both kind of do that rotation, right?
Yep.
Terrorblades will do it if they're ahead. This TB probably needs to spend a little bit more time jungling before they make a move like that.
Yeah, usually with Terrorblades, like, you get a Dragon Lance. Like, if you get an early Dragon Lance, you make a move like that. Fishman's trying.
Yeah, they do have Taiga in the neighborhood. They're going to go for the grip. Can anybody block the hook? They need to be able to hit this, but Taiga is surrounded by heroes. That means BZM has no savior, and Taiga, in fact, may need to use that hook shot to be able to get himself out of danger as he gets some distance, but Stormstormer, hot on his tail, doesn't have the Shadow Strike to slow him down, but he does have the Coddle, lowering down some of those cooldowns. Either still, it wouldn't be enough nuking power.
I gotta say, that was a little cocky positioning there from BZM. Like,
yeah.
he sees the Bane. He sees Fishman sitting right there. He knows he didn't use grip on the mid lane or anything like that. He knows they're all there, and still, like, he was just confident in Taiga being able to stop the grip.
Yeah, Taiga might have been making the call, you know, like, don't worry, I'll save you, but Entity, they will not be able to get Stormstormer out of there. Almost completed Blink, not quite good enough. They trade out with Taiga, but this is looking pretty bad for Entity. They've got to get out of here. And away through the river they go until the Ember Spirit actually catches up, diving in, separating targets here, but it looks like Toby's going to get burned down less. No, the Sleight of Fist cleans him up even after the Burrow Strike, and the other two pick up the Bane kill. So OG, they may have lost BZM, but they strike right back.
And this whole time Amar is just chilling on the top lane. I like his build. Have you seen this before, the Null Talisman on Viper? I feel like there's a lot more heroes that Could get null talismans these
Yeah,
days.
just, I mean, there's such a value item right now. The casual null.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good to me.
I think there's also a lot of like inter-heroes that maybe want to. He's just chilling. This is the most Amar like heat map I've ever seen. But then again, you know, if you're Viper, like this is definitely one of the heroes where the heat map should look like that. So seems like a perfect fit for the way Amar likes to play.
Misha will join him up here, ensuring that Amar doesn't get smoke ganked or anything.
So yeah, still top net worth, all 3 cores of OG. The question is, when do they actually want to group up? It's OG, so probably not for a while. This is what they do. But I also do feel like this is the way that patch looks in a lot of other games as well. There's a lot of like, you push 1 tower and then you farm with that advantage for like 5 minutes, get another round of items, push another tower, farm with that advantage. Like, people are not just deathballing towers anymore. It's like, maybe you could call something like Death Prophet or DK like, oh, it's a death ball, but it only really happens when you have those item timings and after, you know, still a period of farming. Like, Sand King just sits in his lane. Same thing for Endy. He just sits in his lane until he gets a Blink Dagger. He didn't even go hold the top lane. That'd be abnormal in another patch.
So it's a little bit more formulaic, the ball. Maybe like a bowling ball.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Take your time, you know.
Maybe it's like a bowling ball and it keeps coming out that, you know, what was that?
Yeah, you got to wait for it to come back.
You wait for it to come back, you throw it again, you wait for it to come back.
Yeah.
Or you could just grab somebody else's ball, it's too heavy. Well, okay, phrasing, all right.
He's going a little far, but go on.
I'm just saying, if you're used to an 11-pound ball, phrasing once again on that, and you grab a 13-pounder and you throw it, you might screw up. You're not going to hit that strike. So people just don't bother pushing these days because they'd rather wait until they know that it's something that's secure when they have an item timing.
No sense in forcing it.
No sense in forcing it. Yeah, Amar going for a Manta style on Viper.
Middle tower is under attack.
That's not something that I've seen before. Not for a long time, to be frank with you here.
I mean, a Dispel helps deal with there are a couple of things he could Dispel here. That's not bad. He could also, in theory, use the Illusion to help deal with Nightmare targets, but...
Yeah, sure.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's very Amar. It's very like, I'm going to carry from the off-lane style.
It is.
Oh, Taiga off the mark there. Maybe it's for the best. His team was a little far away. He's going to be going for a shard.
Oh,
right away. No force staff, jetpack.
Hell yeah,
right
that's awesome. That's way more fun than a stupid force staff.
That's true.
We're going to watch the miss.
Dude, you just name and shame Taiga
that
like this?
is
Damn.
a little rude. But ignore that.
Spartan was saying when I did the interview with him, he was so excited about this clock. He's this clockwork hero. Gives you everything.
Who was?
It gives you so many suns. Spartan.
Spartan. Oh yes, I saw that.
And of course, Spartan are currently watching this series, cheering for OG, because if Entity does lose, it means that Entity and Brame will be in a tie, and only one of them will be going to relegation. So we'll have an interesting best of 3.
Oh, the old high ground smoke break. Yep. A grip used. Okay.
Really want the kills that they can get, but BZM, Misha, they're all here, and they might just have to leave Fishman to die. Yeah, Fishman even going the other direction. Then Katomi accepts his fate.
Yeah, I mean, BZM just knows if grip is used, like he can go in and act like a madman there, and he's not going to die. Toby was showing top at the same time too. So if there's no Sand King and there's no Fiend's grip, like BZM, he can be a maniac if he wants. Now he's got to be a little careful because he doesn't see Toby, so Toby could have TP'd in at this point. That's probably what he's thinking right now.
Actually, Toby's underneath a ward.
Oh, never mind. He's under vision. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Taiga might actually try and go for that. The Tiny's closing in as well. If they manage to get the hook shot, cogs backwards, that'd be quite the combination with the avalanche over the top, then the toss. Beautifully executed by Yuragi and Taiga. Well set up.
Yuragi is now on the board for kills. More often than not, this is what you see with Tiny as they pick up the shard, pick up the Echo Saber, and that's when they can really start getting involved. Around that time, too, you have like max level and almost all of your abilities, so you actually have the burst to kill heroes. You're not just going to get kited, and he does have his full Shadow Blade now, too, so the map's going to look a lot scarier for Entity from this point out because Yuragi really hasn't been doing anything up until this point. Now he wants to get involved.
Yeah, I feel like that's when the map is already kind of closing in on around you. Entity, having lost their mid tower, mid and top lane are always pushing in, and Entity's just trying to keep bottom, you know, somewhat out. That's Shadow Blade. There's a lot of room for Yuragi to get some pickoffs.
Oh, he hits the hook.
Cogs backwards into the chains. Very nice. Once again, Taiga setting up with one other core to be able to pick up some important kills.
BZM is using the Entity voice lines. That's really funny. That's good.
Panic.
Yeah, classic. Yeah, Taiga's like hard carrying this, man. I mean, he's doing so much work. With 3 cores, like basically sitting in separate lanes, it's falling entirely on him. What's a Pugna gonna do? You know, it's falling entirely on him to actually set things up.
Yeah.
And he is. I mean, Misha's doing great. It's like you can walk into ganks 7 minutes faster than Manta stock because nobody goes Manta on Viper. that is so weird.
Oh.
But no, Taiga's totally carrying this game, which I suppose are words that are not, you know, unique.
It's definitely not a foreign concept to OG.
Yeah. No.
Spirit Vessel complete for Katomi, so we've got some better ways to deal with these heroes. We know that a Pugna is going to be sitting behind a core somewhere, and they already have a bit of a problem with being able to burst somebody down, as some of these heroes, Viper, I mean, all 3 of their cores have some
Tiny
sort
is
of
like
way to be
Vessels.
very tanky. Yeah.
Vessel in general against Tiny. Dude, the same smoke break, it's so unfortunate. Like, every single time Entity goes for this smoke, at this point, it feels like you really have to do some crazy wraparound. OG's been on point with like just having their supports like standing there and breaking smokes. It's one of those things that when you're watching it and just nothing happens like that, it doesn't seem super impactful because literally nothing happened. But when you're in the game and you've run out of smokes because every single one you're just running into a Pugna or a Clockwork, it feels like shit.
Yeah.
Like you can't do anything. Smokes are so important in Dota.
Yeah, it's really interesting how OG is basically, they'll let them have some of the safe lane, they'll let them have some of that bottom lane, but they won't let them get past the outpost a lot of times. There's just somebody usually hanging out there, whether it's Misha or the Clockwork, you know, making sure they can't actually get maybe a full wrap into the mid lane or something, or let them hit this tier 2 too much.
Dude, you know, I was watching a Collapse replay the other day, actually, and I noticed something like that in a lot of these games, there are lanes, like, not being pushed. So that way, the creep wave is in, like, a dangerous area where, like, if you come up, you're going to die.
Misha gets blown up. Now, we do have a full-out Scotty on the Terror Plate, so Entity have hit it a very big timing of their own. We said, you know, if this game is somewhat even, somewhere past 20 minutes, we feel pretty confident about this Terror Blade versus Tiny, just purely that matchup. But, you know, then again, you can't really forget about the fact that OG likes to be able to have 3 different cores scaling throughout the game. So we'll see how impactful Lamar is as a carry, as Yuragi threatening Stormer, just doing a good bit of damage, forcing him back. Maybe Taiga could have gotten a hook shot, maybe not. Either way, forces the Quap off the map.
Yeah, the problem here is like what you said. There are oh, he doesn't get the toss. Yeah, he tosses the creep.
Yeah, if he tosses them, and then especially if Taiga is able to close the distance there.
Yeah.
The hook.
Yeah, that could definitely be a kill.
Hook shot. Second attempt. This time does land on Fishman, and very fast, easy kill. And OG now cementing, okay, you can have the bottom lane because we're very focused on Roshan right now.
Yeah, I mean, usually when you lose a Bane, like we've been talking about for the OG side, like you lose a support, you don't really care that much because their death timer is so low, they just respawn and come to the fight anyway. But when you're directly in front of Roshan, that's a different story. Like 30 seconds is actually enough time to take Rosh, so that's just really unfortunate that that's where Fishman ends up going down. And I think the reason that he goes down there is because he was trying to ward Rosh because he was worried about them taking it. And, you know, in doing that, he actually loses it.
Ooh. Thankfully, oh, it was still enough. I thought the Essence Ring was maybe going to keep him alive, but damn, Yuragi beats him down.
Yeah, he's just huge, dude. He's just massive. Like, he's got the 20 talents already. He's got the Silver Edge, so he's critting. Like, his damage is just enough to kill any of these Entity heroes. Maybe not TB. Probably not TB. But
this is very rapidly turning into OG destroying any hero that's not TB. And I don't know, like, if I have the same faith. Like, sure, Terrorblade versus Tiny, but can Terrorblade 1v5? That's what it's kind of looking like it's going to turn into.
You know.
Oh, there's another one. See if he gets the right crits, the toss up, and that's going to be good enough. Man, that toss damage does so much when you get level 3 grow.
So, yeah, you've got the counter on TV, but the more and more items you give this Tiny, the more the counter just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, an item advantage on, like, a Pudge can carry a game if he has an item advantage. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how Dota works. Like, items scale based off of each other. So a guy with 3 items is, like, way stronger than a guy with 2 items.
Especially if that item is Giant's Ring.
That's a solid item on
I was watching your stream last night. The giant Pudge with the giant hook.
It makes the hook massive. Yeah, it's really funny. I want to see that with Bloodlust and BKB, see how big the hook gets.
Yeah. 14-7, 6,000 net worth lead, but it feels like a little bit more than that just because OG controls so much of the map. And soon, they're going to be knocking down tier 2s. And once they knock down tier 2s, the map starts getting very small for Entity. They're actually going to try and go for this one. The late Cogs push back on Stormstormer. They're chasing after him a little bit. Yuragi actually came from behind, catches Katomi. Stormstormer's fine, but they still netted a kill. They're still going to get the second tier 2 back-to-back, so now it goes from 6K to 8K in rapid succession.
Yeah, and this is the point where you really hate the fact that there's a Tiny on the enemy team, because he can take tier 3s in a matter of, like, seconds, less than a second, depending on the items that he has. He's going for a BKB, so he's going for, like, a safer approach than to go for, like, AC or something like that.
Man, every time. Stormstormer.
If he crits.
40 health.
If he crit once there, like, Stormstormer's dead.
The Rocket Flare could have got him. He does manage to blink away to safety, and he'll be fine. But there's still 2 minutes left on this Aegis. They do have a BKB now on Terrorblade, so we'll see what that does when the time comes for a big team fight. It seems like Entity are very all in on just like, it's okay, guys, we're going to just keep conceding ground bit by bit and give Chrysalis more and more time to farm.
Yeah, no crit in those 2 hits there, which, you know, it happens. Yeah, Tiny going for BKB, full BKB completed now, so now the Sunder's not going to come through. That's a big reason why Terrorblade is considered to be the hard counter to Tiny, is because you know, Sunder him and he's got this massive HP pool, so you do a ton of damage to him that way, but that's not going to be coming through here. I like that Crystallis is building into a Daedalus. Like you said, they're all-inning on the Terrorblade, and this is how you can tell that they're all-inning on the Terrorblade. They're going to rely on other heroes to protect him rather than him protecting himself. They definitely need the damage at this point, and they need to hope that they can keep him alive during a fight where he's just hitting all 5 of OG's heroes.
So everybody else is pretty much going to be a meat shield.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm surprised nobody's building like a Lotus. I guess it's just not that great of a Lotus game. But for Entity, at this point, you're looking for items like Force Staff and Glimmer Cape and Lotus, stuff like that.
Is it still, or we just, these items not good anywhere? The Vlad, Solar Crest, like, why can't we go that route? Goodbye, King.
Yeah, I thought they were the ones baiting him, but it looks like they're baiting themselves. You talk about the... Okay, never mind. Still, OG, they're just...
Times, Cogs push back, and they do have just enough damage with the poison to get the kill.
Yeah, they're like not giving Entity any time to breathe whatsoever. Even with like 30 seconds left on the Aegis, they're still being so aggressive with it.
Entity.
What was your question again? You said something about Vlad's...
Vlad, Solar Crest. We're talking about like how this is basically going to be a 1v5.
Yeah.
And the other 4 heroes are just supporting cast to the Terrorblade. Isn't like Solar Crest and Vlad's, aren't those like the traditional best items? Chrysalis, do they have the damage for this one? They are going to be able to get a full Fiend's Grip. Pops the BKB to stay on top of Yuragi. Yuragi goes into the trees. He needs the vision. The illusion spot him, and it's no. Okay, good. They do manage to get that kill. Chrysalis is now turning back in. He needs all the help he can get, and he's just nobody from town. Amar had a BKB, so he couldn't get off of Sunder, and Toby, well, he tries in vain to help out the Tiny, but just throws his death on the pyre. Another body added into it. It's Katomi. He dies behind the tier 1 tower, and Entity Well, they pretty much, they get themselves the kill they were hoping for in the Tiny, but you could see the rest of OG are equally a big factor.
Yeah, you can see how the counter, you can see exactly how the counter plays out right there. Like, Tiny just gets kited by the Terrorblade with the Scotty. Terrorblade is able to do enough persistent damage versus Tiny. Actually, if you look at the win rate of heroes versus the Tiny, it's all heroes that can take these like long engagements and do a ton of damage over a long time, because Tiny likes to fight like that. So Venomancer, Batrider, those sorts of heroes. So you can see the counter there, and he's just barely in that sentry range. Very lucky. But the other heroes are a problem at this point, just due to the laning phase and how OG has snowballed the game so far.
Yeah.
It's like you don't even need the Tiny at this point. Like, really, he's to deal with the other heroes, and the Terrorblade can be currently dealt with by Amar and BZM. Who has a DD, by the way, on BZM. So he's looking to get active.
Yeah, and he is gonna jump after Stormer here. Didn't quite guess where that blink went correctly, but either way, chased him out the map, pushed this lane in. With the Lincolns, so they've got a Lincolns on Ember, they've got a BKB on the Viper, a BKB on the Tiny. If they do go for this Terrorblade, he's not going to have great Sunder options.
No. If he... Kobe using FP.
Does manage to catch Katomi. Yuragi quickly follows that one up. Now they are going to go for the kill onto Taiga. Now BCM's right in the middle of everything. They do have the Fiend's Grip onto the Tiny right now, but no Terrorblade to follow it up. You can see Chrysalis, he is on full retreat right now.
He has no meta. He doesn't want to fight.
No.
Like, this
is 15 seconds. Oof.
This is the point where, like, a carry player flames their team. That's where, like, depending on who you're playing, if you're playing with a BSJ or somebody, they're just screaming at you because you fought 15 seconds before meta is up.
Yeah.
I get the idea of, like, camping a high ground. That's a good way to take a fight where you're at this disadvantage gold-wise, and so you take an advantage somewhere else where you have the high ground advantage, the vision advantage, like, maybe you can win the fight, but without the TB meta, even with a great grip onto Yuragi, like, he's not going to go down. There's not enough damage to kill Tiny right now, other than with Terrorblade hitting the entire time. By the way, I really like what OG's doing, just like with their choice to not sit and hold an area on the map. I know a lot of teams like to do that, but what they're doing is they recognize that they have these really fast-paced heroes that can, like Ember with his jump, Clockwork with the hook. They have Tiny who's running across with Silver Edge. Like, really, Amar is the only one that can't get across the map quickly, and even he has a Manta style, so he is actually kind of fast at this point. So for a Viper, relatively speaking.
Sure.
So OG is basically like, okay, we're not going to hold an area. We're going to let them come out and then just run across the map and kill them, because our heroes have the mobility to actually do that, and we have the ways of catching them out, which I think makes a lot of sense with the Tiny in general, because you want to catch people out with the Silver Edge, but all the other heroes on OG, they want to do that as well, so it fits perfectly here.
Yeah, they're just constantly sweeping top to bottom, bottom to top, catching Entity as they try and push out lanes. Now, we're expecting Entity at some point in time to be able to set up on some sort of high ground, and maybe OG walks into them. You can kind of see with their smoke. They're setting up on some high ground areas right now, but OG's nowhere near in town. Yeah,
that's like what they're hoping for too, and that's what that last fight was for them. Was it's a mismatch of timings, unfortunately for them.
Yeah.
But you can see what they're going for. It's that there's this map sweeping happening, and the way of punishing that is that OG gets cocky and they run up a high ground with the Tiny when people are not quite behind him just yet. And we almost saw that happen on the bottom lane too, not on a high ground, but the Tiny walked into a sentry, and all of a sudden he's just solo killing 1v3. So it's unfortunate that happens. But you can see what Entity is going for in this game.
Rocket Flare, Spawn Stormer. And Doji, who are currently smoked up, are going to head that direction. The Ember Spirit's going to be in first. He's got a fresh BKB, so he's able to do something like this and just demolish the support at the very start of the team fight. They managed to get Yuragi on top of Stormer, so there's another pickoff. Toby, he's kind of stuck, and Chrysalis is now going to have to do almost a true 1 versus 5, but he can't even beat Amar, it looks like, who is getting sucked on right now by Misha. Goes for the Thunder Blade, but Misha was already missing HP. He's like, okay, bro, go for it. I'm at a third HP.
Yeah.
What do you want to do here? Chrysalis getting the tips, and Entity, who have stalled out this game all for that team fight right there. You can see why OG feels pretty good.
That was just an unfortunate situation for Chrysalis, man. He's sitting against like a Manta Viper.
Who just picked up AC.
Yeah, it's got the AC, so one of the only times that I think I've ever seen a Terrorblade lose a man fight to a Viper